How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Happy Birthday to
To
You.
you.
Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to
you.
you.
Happy
Happy birthday
birthday,
to our
Noir Enigma.
Enigma.
Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to
you. I'm
you
sure
and
that
many
sounded great from the
more.
audience's side. It sounded perfect in my ears. Happy birthday, Noir.
Note to self, never let you guys know when my birthday is. State secret.
Twitter stitched on me.
We're so happy for you. Congratulations on
Thank
making
you.
it a whole extra year. And just before Gen Con.
Woo.
I know, right?
What are you
Hey,
doing
that's
to
a good
celebrate?
way. We can remember it every year. Now we know how. It was like right before Gen Con.
How are you celebrating, Noir?
Drinking a lot and karaoke.
What's your
Karaoke and drinking.
What's your drink? I'll get you something at Gen Con next week.
Oh, my drink of choice right now is a Crown Royal Apple.
Ooh, yes.
With vanilla Coke.
That's nice. I bet that's real smooth. Okay,
it tastes like a pastry. It's so good.
Well, happy birthday, Noir. I will
Thank
be sure to
you
get
so
you that
much,
drink next
yeah.
week. Welcome everybody back to TableTakes. It's another episode of the best 4 days in gaming. We are going to be talking about a lot of board game and tabletop news that has been announced this last week, but we also have 2 really exciting interviews coming up later. We also have some a bundle for all the 5e nerds out there, some crowdfunders for people who love to wait. We got some exciting stuff, but I want to check in with all our hosts first, like we always do, starting with Bonsai. Bonsai, how you been this week?
Doing all right. Been taking a lot of naps because, as you know, I'm 3D printing a human, and that apparently requires a lot of energy. Being a mech, you have to eat a lot of iron. So that's my update. Also, I saw that Paper Girls, their trailer and their episodes on Amazon Prime just dropped, so I'm gonna probably binge watch that before going to Gen Con.
Yeah.
Paper Girls.
I've seen the comics a bunch of times, but I've never actually read any of them. I'm very excited for it as well. I want to learn a lot. Peter, what have you been up to?
What am I up to? I'm preparing for Gen Con. What does that mean? Well, I'm thinking like I'm going to play a lot of D&D for some reason at Gen Con. I'm not sure why. I'm going to run a bunch of D&D games. So I've been getting all my D&D shit together so I can take it there and play games.
That's exciting. I can't believe you have time to run D&D games.
Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. I'll be working too, but my work schedule is pretty mellow because I'm not doing an actor. Sarah Moore is doing our Actoroki event at Gen Con, and that's freeing me up to do other things.
Well, excellent. Great delegating skills, Peter. I have been just watching all the new trailers that have come out this last week for San Diego Comic-Con. Oh my gosh. Lord of the Rings, Black Panther. Don't even get me started on all of the other really, really cool ones. We already talked about the D&D trailer. That one was really awesome. I'm really excited for a lot of really cool stuff to come out. But I'm also starting a new D&D campaign, so I've been really busy with that. And it's in person, so I'm just like trying to figure out like, okay, I need to buy all my materials again. What stuff did I like throw away during the last couple of years of not needing them? With like all my markers have dried out. I had to buy new ones. I'm very excited to start a new campaign. I'm really, really having a good time getting ready for that. And I'm also really excited for Gen Con. Man, this is going to be so much bigger than last year. I mean, the exhibitor hall's filled out. There's so many announcements for new games. The block party's coming back. I mean, there's so many things, and we're all going to be there. Noir, Bonsai, and I, where all of us are going to be running the kickoff show and the send-off show. So if you're tuning in to Gen Con online and you just want to watch some coverage of things that you're going to be unfortunately having to miss out on, or do you just want to see all the RPGs that are getting displayed or any of the shows that are going through Gen Con online, make sure you tune in for that. All right, that's enough checking in with all of us. Let's get right into this news. We got a very cool, exciting announcement coming from Avalon Hill. Turns out they're going to be at Gen Con this year. It looks like the 3rd edition of Betrayal at House on the Hill is going to have a demo at Gen Con at the Avalon Hill booth. which is going to be located in the Indianapolis Convention Center in Hall E, just south of the main exhibit hall. You're going to be able to play the new edition and see all of the new exciting things that they're adding to this classic horror survival game. They're also going to be showing off the Yawning Portal board game. It's just been announced. We don't know much about it other than it's a 1 to 4 player game. It's a strategy board game. It's probably not going to be like D&D, like in a box like we've seen before. It's probably going to be something a little bit more like maybe Lords of Waterdeep or any of the other sort of management style games. I don't know. I'm speculating. We'll see. I can't wait to see it. I'm also very excited to learn Hero Quest. It's the re-release of Hero Quest came out quite some time ago, but they're actually showcasing it at Gen Con. I'm excited because I've never played it before, but I've heard so many things about how it's the best GD board game ever made. And that really cool video somebody made a long time ago, and so I'm still on YouTube. I still love that video. Oh, and very, very interesting announcement. Risk Shadow Forces, the new line in the Legacy line of Risk board games or Risk Legacy games, is going to be available. And you might be asking yourself, how are you going to play a demo of a Legacy game at Gen Con? Well, you get to take it home. You get to play a demo copy at Gen Con, at the Avalon Hill Expo or booth. And then once you're done, or once you have to take a break, you just pack it up, take it back to your hotel room, and then you just continue playing it.
Wow.
It's really cool. They're just giving it. It's awesome.
That's a clever demo, man.
Yeah. There's apparently 1 ticket for each event available. So if you signed up, you can actually bring some of your friends as long as you have a ticket. So cool. Very exciting announcements. If you weren't already excited for Gen Con, you better be now. There's so many cool things to look forward to. All right. Coming up next, we have some D&D news from Noir.
We got some good new stuff coming via Unearthed Arcana. Unearthed Arcana 2022, Wonders of the Multiverse. It's another hint that Planescape is going to be the next legacy D&D setting brought to 5e. A new Unearthed Arcana has been released that includes a direct reference to the sigil. This Unearthed Arcana includes a bunch of plane traveling and general character options, a new glitchling race that is based on the Modrons that inhabit the planes of law, a fate domain for clerics that specialize in divination, a bunch of feats and backgrounds related to planar travel, and some adjustments to previous rune magic and giant blood feats. And of course, a few new spells. Probably the biggest response to this UA, surprisingly, has been one of the spells instead of the reference to sigil. One of the new spells, Summon Warrior Spirit, literally summons a martial fighter to act at the spellcaster's bidding. Folks have long complained about how spellcasters quickly overshadow martial classes in D&D, and giving spellcasters the ability to literally summon and control a martial class does kind of feel like a cherry on top of those complaints. So, spellcasters are just getting something else there. It's a rough life for us martial class players, but we strive to enjoy nonetheless.
See,
go ahead.
I think AD&D, going way back, I think they had the right solution to this problem. Was that, we all know the wizards are going to take over eventually, so you just make them super, super weak at first level, and then you call that game balance.
Oh, wow.
Glass cannon.
Yeah.
They can't take over the game if they don't live to see the rest of it.
I mean, yeah, exactly, right? So you make them weak at the beginning. They can throw 1 magic missile that has 1 missile once a day. That's it.
See, that explains evil wizards, though. They've been struggling for so long that as soon as they get fireball, everybody's getting fireball.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, God. I love that spell is knowingly broken, but everybody just accepts it.
Fireball. What about a wand of fireball plus being able to cast fireball? That's even a double whammy. Can you imagine?
And then a necklace of fireballs.
Oh, yeah, the necklace of fireballs.
Very exciting for all of the spellcasters.
Tap dancing shoes of fireball. You do a specific routine and they just blow up the stage.
My freak just laughs at you.
Well, Noir, there's some other WotC-related news coming out this week, isn't there?
Absolutely. Continuing on to our WotC news, Hasbro has announced WotC's most successful quarter ever. This news being brought to us by Kristen Hoffer at comicbook.com. Hasbro's quarter two earnings presentation during its Tuesday earnings call, Hasbro announced that its tabletop revenue was up 15% year over year this quarter, driven largely by Magic the Gathering. MTG was apparently responsible for 70 to 80% of WotC's gross revenue, and its year over year revenue is up 11%. D&D revenue is actually down this quarter versus last year, but only because 2021 Q2 included the release of Dark Alliance. Which, yeah.
I mean, I really wonder how far back they went, because like when WotC had Pokemon, I don't know. I just wonder if they compared their numbers to, 2000 and 2001. Show me the numbers. I want to see. I want to check. I want to fact check this article.
You know how upset I am that WotC had Pokemon and we never got a Pokemon TTRPG.
There was a Pokemon TTRPG.
There was?
What?
There was a Pokemon TTRPG. Yeah. There was a year where the top selling RPG was the Pokemon TRPG, but nobody knows it because it all went to Walmart and Target, and I don't think it.
We need to track that down. We need to track that down and have it as our table.
Internet, do your work. We need to figure out where this is.
That would be amazing. I didn't myself play any of Dark Alliance when it came out last year, but I have heard so many good things, and I see people playing it online all the time. So yeah, it makes sense why that would take away a little bit from their revenue. But I mean, it's their most successful quarter ever, which I mean, even having D&D be a part of that is really cool.
I love that you're focused on the story, because you're a professional and I'm over here going, I want to be the very best, like no one ever was.
I'm excited to play a 10-year-old kid.
I mean, I'm sick of hearing about all my friends and all the D&D campaigns that they've turned into a Pokemon game where they get to control monsters and stuff like that. I want to play something like that too. Pokemon's awesome. You know what else is awesome? Modiphius. And they have a very exciting announcement coming from Peter.
Yeah, so I think I might be a little late on this announcement, but I think it's a little too cool to show. This is pretty interesting. So they announced their Summer of Gaming promotion. They had a big sale back in June, and but they have announced that they are doing an open license SRD sort of thing for their 2D20 system, so that other publishers can step up and make and create tabletop RPGs using the 2D20. So they've released an SRD for it that has here are the core rules, what makes it 2D20. They've also launched a World Builders program with Drive-Thru RPG to help smaller publishers create stuff like that. So if you don't realize. So the Star Trek game that we were playing here on TableTakes game night a couple of weeks ago, that was using the 2D20 system. They also have it for Dune. They have Fallout 2D20 system. They have Octone Cthulhu as a 2D20 system. And basically the way, I kind of like it. I got to admit, I like this system. The way it fundamentally works is that as a character, you have a set of 6 ability scores that are kind of like what you're naturally inherent, your natural health and your natural charisma, these sorts of things. Every system has these, right? And then you have 6 others that are kind of broad, like skills. And then when you go to do something, the game master will determine which combination of your natural abilities and your skills are apply in this situation. So you add those two together, it creates a target number, and then you roll 2d20 to try and get less than or equal to that target number. And then it doesn't, what's kind of fun as a DM, although I'm still trying to get my head around it, is that a lot of times you don't really need to make stats up for the opponents because you never rolled a dice. You don't really engage that way. The player characters roll dice to to score successes against whatever their obstacle is, and they get more. The difficulty is based on how many successes you need to get, and so I don't know. I think it's an interesting system, and I'm kind of looking forward to trying it again. I'm certainly interested to see what IP has come out using this system, if any.
It's kind of a trip. I remember playing with this system, and I've been trained. Like my mind has been trained that when I roll a d20 and I get a 20, aha, yes, good, very good. Oh, high numbers, yes, very good. Now
bingo.
I'm twisting all that, reversing all of that.
I know that is the one thing that's like, oh, you want a 20 to be a 20. It's a crit. 20 is good, but no, the 2d20 you want low. So 20s are horrible. No, 20s are bad.
And one thing I can't. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna say it confused me because when we first got our Star Trek die, it has the emblem where the 1 would be. So I played a D&D game, and I thought for sure, like, oh yeah, I'm on the emblem. I just got it.
I rolled their 20.
Then I saw the 20, and I'm like, oh no.
You've been cheating this whole time. That's really what it was.
At least you didn't call both of them as 20. Like, this die has 2 20s on it.
You got to be honest.
Yeah, of course.
We have some exciting Magic the Gathering news as well. As part of Hasbro's most successful quarter, we took the feedback. We know Magic is important to y'all. We're gonna give you some Magic the Gathering news. So, straight from the Magic website, we have some news about the historic Anthology 6 and Explorer Anthology 1 sets that are now available on Magic the Gathering Arena. Actually, it came out yesterday, so you still have time to check it out. They open up new deck building opportunities in both the historic and the new Explorer formats by adding powerful, iconic, and popular cards from across Magic's history. Yeah, if you're like me and you don't know anything about Magic's history, this is the best time to start learning about it because you got some new cards that you can grab that are going to help you. Also, the Arena Open is this weekend. That's right, starting tomorrow and going in through Sunday. The Arena Open is happening, and it's got some big prizes up to $2,500 and qualifier weekend invitations, plus a new structure for day 2 events. In past the limited Arena Open events, players who made it to day 2 would draft a single deck and then play up to 9 full matches with it. Although day 2 is expected to be an intense competition, this many games with a single draft deck made the experience more of a repetitive grind. So to give day 2 players more potential variety throughout the day, they're changing the structure of this month's Arena Open day 2. You can find out all about it if you just check out the article that we have linked in chat. And finally, we've got some news about the cosmetics that are actually returning in the summer sale that starts August 4th and goes all the way through to August 17th. You're going to get a lot of deals on cosmetics for your Magic the Gathering Arena. Plus, there's going to be more details and exciting bundles coming soon on the Magic the Gathering website. So don't miss out. So that's for all. Sorry, good.
What do you mean by cosmetics? I mean, like elf ears and stuff? Like what?
Well, Magic the Gathering Arena is the digital format for Magic the Gathering. So all these cosmetics are like digital. The cosmetics are probably just going to be like backgrounds for your gameplay, play mats, sleeves for your cards, and things like that. People still love to decorate even in a digital format.
I was hoping I could get something I could take down to the studio.
Oh, it's makeup.
Yeah,
it's Magic the Gathering makeup brand. Actually, you know what that would probably be? I'm wondering why they haven't done that.
I think it'd be great, Bonsai. Yeah, I'm with you. That's what I was hoping for.
I do hope that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, please.
I do hope that the cosmetics are like certain types of pets, because that's always like pets you can click on the side just for fun little gadgets to like release and traps, or like confetti somewhere, like a little trap. That's always like those cool cosmetics they have for digital, just like confetti.
Well, stranger things have happened.
Stranger things have happened. Indeed. And they're still happening, and they're going to happen some more. Stranger Things is just going to keep on getting stranger and more ubiquitous. Noir is really excited about this. Okay, so what we are talking about. So Christian Hopper at Comic Book has reported that Stranger Things game, another one, has been announced by CMON. So it's called Stranger Things Upside Down. It's coming in 2023. Now, before you've had too much Stranger Things, this game's going to be by Rob Daviau, and he's done a lot of great stuff, especially a lot of legacy games. He's done Pandemic Legacy, Magicora Legacy, Risk Legacy. He's Betrayal, House on the Hill. I don't know if it's the normal or the legacy. No, it was Mike Selinger did the normal one. Yeah. Axis and Out. He's worked on a lot of big game brands over the years, and CMON is publishing the game. And this is the same company we just announced last week was doing an upcoming Dune Arrakis game. So it's interesting. So in this board game, we don't know much about it. That's why I'm talking about the designer. But what has been announced is that it is a cooperative game, and your goal is to save Hawkins from the Upside Down. So this is, and that's what the game is going to be about. But by the way, if you love the idea of Stranger Things games, yeah, there is already a Stranger Things Monopoly game that has come out, so you can always go see that. And there is an Asmodee Stranger Things party game where the players are pitted against each other to find out who is controlled by the Mind Flayer. Now, and I think if we were playing, I would definitely know where my money would go. Marcus, of course. Marcus is obviously the player.
Okay.
Yeah, because yes, we always must kill Marcus. Marcus needs to die in every episode that he's here.
Marcus, yes.
So over.
That's all I got. That's all I got. Somebody besides Noir should go next.
Well, I feel like I don't know if this game would appeal to somebody like me who never watched the show because it was too scary and I was like afraid to watch it. Like, is it gonna like be too scary for me to play this board game?
I don't know. I know I've never been scared to play a board game before. So I don't know what that feels like, you know.
Well, okay. I mean, I hope not. We don't know much information. Here, I'll have Noir play with
you. You can always
hold my
table. I mean, you know.
Yeah. We need to get you to play Dread. That's what we need to do. Dread.
Okay, so speaking of Dread, we've got a very cool announcement about a very dreadful TTRPG.
Ooh, yes.
Bonsai.
All right. Coming again from Christian Hopper at comicbooks.com or comicbook.com website. It's official. The official, what is it called? Software just announced that they have partnered up with Kadawada to produce a new tabletop role-playing game based off of Elden Ring. I don't know if you guys heard. It's like kind of those very open world, Dark Soulsy kind of games where you just kind of grind and find the best weapons, and then you suddenly die out of nowhere, and then you cry for hours because you didn't save at the right point. Kind of game
doesn't know about Elden Ring.
I'm just saying it's a game that has recently come out that got it really, really huge in a lot of like gaming circles. Well, they're going to have their own tabletop role-playing game, which is great. We're going to go ahead and be able to role-play with the great Elder Turtle, with the great pot of justice that asks you to hit it harder so it can get out of the hole. You know, it's a very unique scene you should see when you play that game. So
Ooh, do I get to play as Blade?
I don't know. I have to see. Maybe you can.
Play as Blade.
For some context, this is actually the second from Software had partnered with so forgive me, I probably pronounced his name really wrong. Kadokawa publishers. This is going to be they're a very popular publishing company in Japan itself. Although one of the first ones they did, I know Steam, a lot of people, when you think, oh, Dark Souls tabletop role-playing game, you think Steam Forge. Actually, Japan had their very own that came out in 2018, their very own tabletop RPG that just was never translated into the United States. And so we don't get that sweet, sweet Japanese lore and such. But yes, they're doing it again. It received great success in Japan, so their company wants to work with them again to make, of course, Elden Ring, since they did so great during the Japanese version of Dark Souls. The game was designed by Kato Hironori of the group SNE. They're bringing it back to this game design. So if you guys don't know, SNE is like TSR but for Japan. They were the ones who designed what the Dungeons and Dragons is here. They did Lodoss War, and they also designed Sword World, which you might know by Sword Art Thou online. So if people are familiar with that anime, also with Lodoss War, that was like OG anime. Just nerd hat. Anywho, so that's what's going to be coming. There's not much details about the game, but it is scheduled to release in Japan in spring 2003. So hopefully you have a Japanese friend that can translate the books, because apparently they're really, really good. We just haven't gotten them in the United States at all yet. So hey, marketing, please help us.
I feel like I need to explain myself. So if you don't know who Blade is like the most important character in Elden Ring. You come across him, and he has this. By the way, he's a wolf man. He's just like a giant wolf. He's got like a scar over one eye. He's got a giant sword. That's really all you need to know. He's the best. He's the best. He's got the best voice, and you better get to meet him as an NPC.
I just love how like the whole last half of Bonsai saying, Javion, you were sitting there waiting for the Blade callback. You were like, no, we gotta bring this back to Blade, because I want to make sure everybody knows what this is.
I thought Blade was the one that's like a hyena rat person who has mom issues. That wasn't him. No.
No, I don't think that might. Maybe I don't think so.
Is that not the one with the mommy issues? There was somebody in there with big mommy issues in that game.
You know, I've got mommy issues because I need a bundle boss to tell me about some bundles. Oh. And I know just the mommy to do it. Bonsai!
Wow!
Yes!
Bonsai.
Wow!
Bonsai! You are going to be a mother soon. What better way to celebrate that than by being our bundle boss for today? Tell us about some bundles, and not just the one in your bed.
Oh, that was such a good. Hold on, I need to applaud that segue. Oh my gosh. Anywho, hey, if you guys are up, I have for the bundle boss bundles today is the legendary epic monster bundles coming from Bundle of Holding. So just for the base of the donations that you need, for $12.95 or $13 USD, you get 3 complete 5th edition monster manual collection, which is retailed about $50. They are free DRMP3 ebooks, including Sea of Monsters, Mythos of Monsters, and Latin American Monsters. So you get all of those great 5th edition books. And if you happen to pay more, about $25 instead of like $13, you could pay about $25. You level up to the Epic Collection with 7 more 5th edition titles, including Epic Treasures and 3 high-level adventures called Epic Deaths, Heart of War, and Forgotten Crows, and the Mythos Monsters of the VTTR token packs for virtual tabletops. All of this, of course, with these monsters, they're monsterably going to be donating to Direct Relief. Hey, there's still a pandemic going on. So while this is going on, hospitals need supplies, money to get to pay their doctors, money to just get things that they need. So Direct Relief goes in and does that, helps supply masks, equipment, and all that good stuff, so we can keep the area sanitary and help save lives. So if you want that epic deal, go on Bundle of Holding. Sorry, I was like,
thank you, Bonsai. That was awesome. And that'll do it for our bundle boss for today. And we're going to move right into Crowdfunder Court. That's right. We got crowdfunders. We got court. We're going to present these to you And if you don't like any of them, please feel free to let us know, and we will decapitate the person responsible. And I will put my head on the chopping block first. I will volunteer as tribute to talk about a Kickstarter I know you're gonna love, because if you're anyone like me, you love dice. And what's better than a dice you can roll? A die you can use as a miniature. We've got Quad Heroes second edition. That's right. If you missed out on the first edition, the first Kickstarter, it's the second edition. Back better than ever. It's a tabletop platformer experience with beautiful components, inventive and exciting gameplay, and it's revised and improved. So we've got even more, they've got even more deluxe miniature dice for you to use and roll. You're going to be toppling them over, rolling them down the field, jumping over obstacles, collecting collectibles and power-ups. It's very exciting. It's a 1 to 6 player game and only takes about 20 minutes per player. You're basically just a cube-shaped hero in a dangerous, sometimes chaotic, and always fun-filled world on a fast-paced adventure. What's more to love? Check out Quad Heroes Second Edition. It's going to be ending in 13 days on August 12th, right after Gen Con. Don't miss out. Next, I've got a second Kickstarter that I backed myself. I backed it because I really want to play it. It's called Halves. Halves is a word game for the ruthless. It comes to us by a punk rock and roll band named the Rattlesnakes. You might have heard of them. They've got a ton of hits on the charts, and they just made a card game because they were on a plane one day and they're like, hey, why don't we make a card game? It's kind of like the Decemberists when they made Illimat. Yeah, it's a card game which you're trying to keep other people from guessing the word on your half of the card. If you are able to give a hint, but nobody can guess it, you get to keep the card. You get points. But if somebody else guesses it, they get the points. But there's also all of these curse cards that make it harder for other people to actually earn points or swap things around and cause mayhem in the game. It's very cute, very cool, and it's very small. It plays 2 to 8 players, but it only takes about 30 minutes to play. It's got a very minimalist kind of sleek design. It looks very fun. If you like word games and you like card games, it's going to be very easy to pick up and play. But you want to jump on it soon because there's only 3 days left. So make sure you grab your copy, hop on that Kickstarter like I did, and we can all play some wordy games together. All right, enough from me. Let's move on to the most exciting crowdfund Kickstarter, or actually crowdfunding from GameFound.
Yeah. But first, I want to ask about this word game. I mean, it's like, so if you start off with the word like time, and somebody has to figure out what word comes after that, is that like is that what's going on? Like time?
Well, okay, here. The way it kind of works is that there's like 3 categories of clues that you have to give. So if you want to get the points, you have to give a clue. So yellow is like category, right? So it might be like an animal, right? So it has to be like, okay, this is an animal. So some other participants, like maybe it's a cat, so they have to name all the animals that they can until they figure out the right one. Blue is rhymes with, so you have to give a word that rhymes with it. So if the word that you're trying to give is bloom, then somebody else has to give off the word that's like flume or plume or tune until somebody gets it right? And then finally we've got perfect pairs, which is kind of like chain reaction kind of thing, where you have to give a word that's like part of another word, like contractions, right? So if your word is hot, then you want to give the clue like dog, like, or line or something like that. And then everybody's trying to guess like, oh, timeline is hot dog or hot, like that kind of thing. And then you get the points that way.
So if you time travel back to the bloom for a hot dog, how many points do you get?
Oh boy. It really, really depends on the card because the points are kind of dependent on what's on the card. Like a harder clue or a harder word might require that you get more or fewer points, that kind of thing. So it's all very modular. So you're never going to get to play the same game twice.
Love that there's a not safe for work edition too.
Yeah.
Is there a not safe? There is a not safe.
There has to be. With card games like this, the possibilities for like adult fun are endless, of course. Because simple things, we're trying to get other people to say things inappropriate. Like, I mean, yeah, it's already there. Oh, I forgot to tell you, there is an early bird edition. I hope it hasn't Nope, never mind. It's all sold out. Never mind. Early bird bonus is gone. Sorry. You
All right.
snooze, you lose.
You just went to tease people like, here you can get this, but no, you can't.
All
Well,
right.
Peter, tell us about your Kickstarter.
I was stalling for time. I was just trying to do some more research about it here. No, if Your Honor, if it will please the crowdfunding court, I will present Burn Cycle. But I got to mention that, like, I don't think Bonsai and Noir are presenting crowdfunding things this week. So, like, if the risk is that you lose your head if the court doesn't like it, I think, is there a demotivation to participating in the court?
We have a duty to our people to bring them the news.
That's what I
was
thought.
the boss. I was the boss, so Noir doesn't have an excuse.
It's my birthday.
Yeah. Perfect excuse.
There you go.
I'm just now learning that Peter is on a swivel chair.
Okay. Well, all right. I know. I'm feeling the pressure here.
I was tricked.
That's okay. I know I've got a winner here. Okay, so I'm talking about this game called Burn Cycle. So first of all, most important thing to know is the crowdfund. It's on GameFound, and it ends in an hour and a half, hour and 23 minutes. So if you like what I'm about to talk to you about, you might want to go check it out real soon, as soon as our show is over today. So this game comes from Chip Theory Games. They did this great game a few years ago called Too Many Bones, and they like games with a lot of chips. Like if you want to have a whole bunch of extra chips in the house in case it's poker night, this is what I would you should check it out. So the chips are very beautiful. They're nice and weighty. They got beautiful maps that you put the chips on and so forth. So you would have found all that with Too Many Bones. So this new game that they're coming out with, it's called Burn Cycle. Now, the backstory from this game, if this doesn't sell you on it, nothing will. So I'm just going to read it to you because they got a really good little backstory. This is right off their crowdfunding. Long ago, humanity drove itself to extinction, only to be resurrected centuries later by a race of sentient AI created before the apocalypse. Now, learning nothing from their past mistakes, humans have subjugated. So there's missing something here. Like the humans wiped themselves out, but sentient AIs brought the humans back, like Jurassic Park style somehow. Okay, and so the new reborn neo-humans, if you will, have subjugated the robot liberators. And now how's that for gratitude? With elite CEOs. Okay, why do we always get picked on? I don't know. Anyway, the elite CEOs conducting their planetary rule through a cabal of corrupt corporations. There's only one group that knows how to exploit the CEO's hubris, an underground team of robot revolutionaries known as the 404th, which is not the 40. What's the Star Wars one? No, it's not those guys. I'm pretty sure. With time running out before humanity seizes absolute power, the robots must accomplish a series of daring raids to take down the corporations from the inside. So you got it. So humans wiped themselves out. AI robots brought the humans back. The humans took over the robots, and now you're playing the robots taking over the evil humans who wiped out the robot. Yeah, you get the idea.
Okay.
So you can
get the brain of the robot.
Yeah. If you can keep all that straight. So yeah, in Burn Cycle, you and up to 3 other players take on the role of one of the intrepid bots of the 401st, working together to move up the floors of each corporation's headquarters to defeat the CEOs and their villainous security captains. I mean, these are just people paid by the hour. But anyway, you can control your movements through the use of the Burn Cycle, a dynamic, ever-shifting series of chip sequencing decisions. I see what they did there. Chips, like chips in the head, but chips in the game board.
Yeah. You know how much I love a thick chip.
Yeah, chip.
Got big poker chips.
Well, I think this game's got all that, right?
And dice.
And dice, yeah. So your fight extends beyond the physical realm as you battle each CEO directly on their network. So it sounds like it has a little bit of cyberpunk in there. You can play it solo or cooperative. Plenty of CEO action in this game. So yeah, you got an hour and 20 minutes now.
Also, the
Yeah.
artwork is amazing. I looked at it. Great artwork.
Yeah, it does look beautiful. At first, I thought Burn Cycle was just everybody roasting each other around the table.
That'd be a good game, actually.
But this is much cooler.
There's nothing about Burning Man. I thought it was about Burning Man when I first did that.
Oh, you know what? I think though that we need because of that. I think we need it since Gen Con is literally less than 6 days away.
Oh my god!
What are y'all
What?
looking forward to?
Oh
Huh?
boy.
Well, like I said, I'm going to run a bunch of D&D. Like I usually don't get a chance to do many games, but I'm going in early. I'm going in Sunday. And I'm going to play. I had a couple friends of mine say, hey, we're coming in early. If you're there early, can we do something? And it just that just spawned a whole theme for my Gen Con. I'm going to play a bunch of D&D at Gen Con up until when the show starts. And when the show starts, then I'll be too busy. But all during the lead up.
Hold that thought, Bonsai and Peter. We've got a very exciting interview that we've been so thrilled to present with you today. We've got an exciting guest. Peter, would you lead us in?
Yes, we have Justin is coming in to hang out with us. Where is he? Is he here?
Which
Ooh,
Justin? Peter?
And I mean Justin Gary, of course. Justin Gary. So I just say before he gets here, embarrass him before he shows up. I've known Justin a long time. If you ever want to get the sauce, ask him about how we met up at Burning Man one year. There's a good story there, but I don't think we're going to get into it here.
Hello.
Justin. Hey, there he is. How you doing?
I am doing fantastic. It's exciting to be here.
It's exciting to have you on TableTakes.
Yeah, fantastic. Especially right before Gen Con. I feel like this is like the special one, right? We're right before heading out.
This is
the
special
best
one.
possible. Yeah.
Right,
All
right. Yeah, this
The
is
premium slot.
Premium slot.
the best show possible. So, hey, Justin, I'm sure not everybody knows you as well as I do. If you could. What are you doing these days? Tell us why you're here. Why did we invite you onto this show anyway?
Yes, excellent. Well, in addition to my wonderful conversation, you have invited me because there's one really, really cool thing that I've been working on with someone that you may know well. In fact, I know Peter does, Richard Garfield, and I have co-created a brand new game called SoulForge Fusion, which you can note my screen thing is knocking it out, but you can see the logo in the background. And if you come to Gen Con next week, it will be the first time that anybody except for our Kickstarter backers will be able to actually play and experience the game directly. It's very exciting. It's like a brand new category of game. We have taken the best of trading card games. We've taken brand new technology to algorithmically generate one-of-a-kind decks. It's sort of like Smash Up and Magic's Jumpstart had a SoulForge baby. That's how we describe it.
Aw.
Exciting. So at the actual convention, do people can they just walk up and start playing? Do they have to buy a ticket in advance?
Yeah, so great question. So we have events where you can buy tickets to participate in the events. We also have a booth 3031. Stoneblade Entertainment is my company, and so you can buy the game there. And for those of you that are not going to Gen Con, do not worry. We do have plenty of opportunities for you as well. The game is available on Tabletop Simulator right now. We have a free mod that you can play. You could join our Discord. Just go to stoneblade.com. There's a link to our Discord. But the cool thing about it is not only do we have one-of-a-kind algorithmically generated decks, but you can scan those decks into your online account and play your one-of-a-kind deck in Tabletop Simulator. So we built it so it's truly an integrated hybrid, like digital physical experience. It's like tabletop first, but you can play your exact deck online. Every organized play events can be run online and in person. They feed into the same system for rankings. And we don't have just rankings for players. We have rankings for the decks too. So your deck levels up. So it goes from bronze to silver to gold, which then like unlocks your ability to go into bigger tournaments and do more cool things. So we have like really pulled out all the stops to create it. So for most people, you can only buy the physical game on September 22nd. But if you come to Gen Con, you can buy it next week. And for anyone that just wants to play for free, just come on, join our Discord, play on Tabletop Simulator. There's tons of fun stuff to do. And so, yeah, this has been something I've literally worked on for a decade. Peter alluded to the story. I'll jump into a little bit of story time. Alluded to the story of how we met, which was 2010 at Burning Man.
Oh, so you actually did.
Well, we had met before because I was a pro Magic player before then. But we weren't like close. So what happened was I revealed Ascension, my first game I launched as my own company, back in 2010 at Gen Con, just like we're kind of doing with Soulforge Fusion. But the release date had gotten pushed back, and the release date was actually, it turned out, at the time I was at Burning Man. And so I held a release party at Burning Man, and I just so happened to pick a place to camp, which was right next to the one and only Peter Axon. And so he was at the very first release party for Ascension, which was a debut at Gen Con that year, and then launched my entire company. And now we're going to run this exact same thing back this year, because pretty much the release date's right a little bit after Burning Man time this year for Soulforge, but the debut at Gen Con and release soon after. So this is a full 12-year arc. In many ways, because Ascension is what then let me meet up with Richard, and we started working together on Soulforge way back then. And now the technology has caught up to let us do this really cool thing we have now.
I have to admit, I don't remember much of that week. Except I do remember meeting you. You camped in our space.
That is true. That is true.
It was funny. It was funny. I might have the story is we had this big space for Burning Man, and we didn't properly block it off. And the next morning, some of the other baggage check people came in. Man, there's people encroaching on our land. They set up their camp in our area. And I put on my big Haas hat and I go strutting over there. Justin Gary? You're right. Yeah. So they're fine. Let him hear. Yeah. So that was good.
Yeah, it was
That
awesome.
sounds. Oh.
Okay, so this is a card game.
Correct.
But you plug it into a computer somehow. So back up to that part.
Yeah. Okay, so every deck is algorithmically generated to be one of a kind, right? So
Okay.
you build a deck, and then Peter's other game, Keyforge, kind of worked like this, right? Where you had a one of a kind deck. But ours, you can smash any two different decks together, and so you can actually customize it. So that is a huge part. But then, and again, I don't think this is going to show up on my camera, but every one of these decks has a nope, not going to happen. There's a QR code on here, I promise you. And you
Okay.
can scan it, and then that deck goes into your online account. So you can.
It might have been good that you didn't just show the whole world the QR code. Yeah,
that's true. Haha, this one's fine.
for Justin Gary's personal.
And so when you play, you can play on, just classic tabletop game. Just shuffle the cards together and play. And there's a cool mechanic where the cards level up as you play. There's just a great video that just got posted from Tulare Community College that does like 15 minutes or less to learn how to play. That just got posted this week. So you can get through the mechanics. So you can just play a regular tabletop game, or you add it to your online collection, and then you can play it on Tabletop Simulator. So you import your deck into Tabletop Simulator. We have a backend that does all that for you. Also, people can create their own events using our system. You can log in, you can charge entry fees, you can do everything. So fans can do it, stores can do it. We wanted to make sure that OP was like you can get together and play with people wherever you are, however you want to, right?
I have so many questions, but I better let somebody
go for it.
I was just about to ask, like one of my favorite parts of these kind of games is trading cards. So with the QR code and having ownership of it that way, will I still be able to trade with my buddy? Like if he has a better card than me?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the way it works is if you scan a QR code that has not yet been scanned, then you can just claim it and say, okay, this is mine, and now it's in your account. Now it's yours. If you want to trade that or sell it or whatever, you unlock it from your account. So you give it to the person who you want to give it to, and then they scan it into their account. So you can still trade and sell, but it just makes it so that if you've claimed it, nobody can steal it from you. But if you want to trade it, you just say, okay, unlock, let this go, and then hand it to your friend.
So can all this stuff be done on the phone as well? I'm sorry.
Yes, 100%. All of it can be done on the phone. Everything is, we have so you go to soulforgefusion.com. Everything works right now. Our Kickstarter backers are already doing this. So you can see how to play the game. You can learn about the lore. You can, if you have decks, you can scan them in, manage your account, build decks, sell them, do whatever. It's all there.
That's so cool. All right. Sorry. Go ahead, Peter.
Well, I just say it sounds like an interesting solution to the problem if somebody steals your cards. What happens if somebody steals the physical deck, but you still have the cards virtually, and they can't take that from you?
Correct. And you can't play in a physical tournament without it, right? So anytime you want to play in one of our tournaments, you have to scan to validate that this is your deck. So if it's not your deck,
Oh.
you can't play with it. So it actually does help with theft problems because it's not the deck's worthless to anybody except for the person who first owned it and scanned it.
That's
Bless
clever.
you, I've had so many Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic decks stolen from me.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
No, that's great. So I mean, with all of these like programs put in, how like just coming from like a maybe beginner's perspective, how beginner friendly is it with all of these?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this is like one of my goals, right? The classic goal of a game designer is like easy to learn, difficult to master, right? And Richard and I both, I mean, he gets an enormous amount of credit because he's amazing, but we basically try to build something that was very easy to get into. So every starter kit you buy, it comes with 4 of the decks, so 1 of each of the 4 factions. All you have to do to play is shuffle the level 1 cards from the 2 decks together. And any 2 decks are going to work together. Any 2 different factions can be shuffled together. So it's very easy to get into. And there's so much, like anytime you play, you can play any card in your hand, and then that card levels up and you get the higher level card. There's no mana to worry about. There's no like other kind of things to tweak. It's just pick any card, play it. And the cost, the balancing comes from, well, if a card's really good right now, it probably doesn't level as well. So you're probably going to get a worse card later. So just like in Ascension and other deck building games, you're building your deck as you go because you're constantly reshuffling. So it's very easy to play, but there's all this depth that shows up as you play and as you kind of see things going. So it's a lot of fun. Again, people can try it for free on Tabletop Simulator right now. It's very addictive. That's why I've been working so hard to bring this back over the last 10 years.
Real quick question. Can we just get like a quick rundown of the factions? I love playing Control because I don't like people having fun. Is there anything like that available for me?
That is exactly how I did most of my career as well. So yeah, so Necrium are the undead faction. They can regrow and reanimate their characters, and they can do lots of drain effects. That's the background you see behind me right now. Did this update now. The Aloyan background here. They are the mechanical faction. They build giant monsters and replace their guys and have a bunch of armor and huge defenses. Then there's the Utera, who are a faction of the nature faction, but because Soulforge is on a planet that's covered in ice, the Soulforge is the only source of light and heat and magic. They actually went underground, and so they go wide. They put in lots of creatures. They swarm over, and they can take over the whole place. And then there's the Tempest. The mighty Tempest are a elemental faction. They are the most using spells and magic and ice and fire to control. They have a lot of cards that trigger off of spells, so that's probably your best control faction if you're looking for that. So it's a lot of fun. A lot of different ways to combine. Each combination of 2 different factions really builds a different archetype. So lots to explore.
Wow. Okay. This looks so good. I love the fact that there's like no mana. You can just literally play a card from your hand and it's just instantly out there. That's so exciting to me. Also, I just want to say bravo for being our most well-prepared guest interviewer. Oh my gosh, with these backgrounds, amazing. Thank you so much. I think with all this preparation that you've done, I'm going to throw you a really difficult question. So let's see how prepared you are. Okay. Throughout all of this like 10 years of working with in and out with Richard, with like trying to figure out how the game's going to work, what was the biggest obstacle to overcome in order to make this game? Because I mean, 10 years is a long time.
Oh, I got an easy question. I got an easy answer for that one, man. So when we built the game the first time, right, we built it as Soulforge. The original was a digital trading card game only. And Richard and I were because this was back in 2011. So there were no digital trading card games. There was no Hearthstone, Magic Arena didn't exist, like none of it. So we were like, all right, we're the first. Like, we're going to make this, and we're going to make a game that is really, really hard to make physically because the cards actually level up and transform as you play them. So I play level 1, it transforms in level 2. I play level 2, it transforms in level 3. That would be terrible to do it physical. And so then all of a sudden, like a genius, I decided, you know what we should do? We should make this game physical. And so the hardest part by far was, how do you make the mechanics work? How do you make the physicality of it work so that it's still fun and flows well on the tabletop, just like it did in the digital game? And so we made a lot of, I don't know if we have enough time to go into that.
Did you use stickers? Is it stickers?
No, there's actually, you have 3 decks of cards. So yeah, stickers is definitely not the answer. So you actually will, when you play the card, you grab the level 2 and you put it in your discard pile. When you play the level 2, you grab the level 3, you put it in your discard pile. And so each thing, and they're all color coded, fluid and the easy to find. And we changed the pacing of the turns to make it work really well. We introduced the Forgeborn character, which is kind of like your commander in Magic terms, or your avatar, like your main character, who actually like levels up and gets more powerful every time you shuffle. And that came out of the fact that we needed some way to track when you need to shuffle. And so then it became from a tracker card into this cool superpowered character. So a lot of cool design came out of solving a problem that I created for myself. And that was definitely the hardest part of bringing this thing to life.
Wow.
That's awesome. That definitely sounds like you put a lot of work into it. And
Yeah.
you said you were working with Richard Garfield. I knew I recognized that name somewhere. So did that have anything to do with the game's title, Soulforge?
So I will point out that Soulforge was a name we had in 2011. So this other game that you may be referencing copied us. We were first. And we got it because there was the storyline was there. The sun, the power of the sun was captured in this giant forge, this giant device. So soul being sun, soul forge. That was the name of the game. And then the fusion got added because of the algorithmically generated decks and combining two decks together. So we created the name. Anybody else? There's a lot of people like Forge. It's cool. Forges are cool. We understand. Other people are welcome to use it as well.
Excellent.
I guess one of my questions is maybe like a question you were probably going to tackle in the future, since you're doing all of these like physical plus physical mixed with digital. Are there plans to do augmented reality also in these kind of things?
Yeah, I think augmented reality is really interesting. I've spent a lot. I love playing in this space, like the gap between physical and digital. We all love tabletop, right? And there's nothing that separates this ability of just being in the same room together. But there's also obviously a lot of advantages to digital, right? We all couldn't be talking if not for this digital platform, right? So how do you find the best of both worlds? So far, augmented reality on the tabletop experience has not been where it needs to be. I think I haven't seen anything that really added enough value to get me excited. Now, if there comes a day, which I believe there will, where like something like the Google glasses become the norm, and we have there's no like, I don't have to hold up a phone or do anything weird, and we just by default have a lens that can let us see cool things. Absolutely, right? Tracking health stats and attack stats, and having some of the busy work get resolved automatically, or having some randomization, cool tools and cool animations. That all makes a lot of sense to me in the long term. But I think we're at least 5 years off from that, if I were betting.
What do you have in the future that's coming to Soulforge that you want to tell people about?
So we haven't even released yet. You're already asking me what's coming in the future. Okay. All right. That's cool. Not good enough for you. Algorithmically generated decks. Scan your decks online.
I'm sure the
Brand new
Kickstarter
technology.
backers are very excited.
We'll throw new stuff. No, actually, so we've already finished set 2. We have a ton of cool new mechanics, including new card types, new mechanisms. And remember, because each card is algorithmically generated, what we do, like unlike in Keyforge, where a deck was algorithmically generated. So you had a standard like TCG set of cards that was like 300 cards or whatever it was, and you got a deck that was 30 of those. We actually algorithmically generate the cards, so they'll be spliced halves. So maybe you've got like fire breathing and Yeti, and you've got like ice breathing and robot, and then you could mix and match those. So you'd have a fire breathing robot and an ice breathing Yeti, and each one of those cards is something different. So we have over 15,000 unique possible cards from set 1 alone. Every time we add a new set, it's not just like a couple hundred more cards, it's tens of thousands of new possible permutations. Like everything is exponentially increased, and there are more deck possibilities than atoms in the universe. So there's really cool stuff there. Oh, there's one more thing I do want to talk about that's really cool that we're excited about, which is, you guys love tabletop RPGs. I love telling great stories also, right? So what we are doing is we're allowing players to influence the story. So we are actually having our very first storyline tournament at Gen Con. And so where you can change, because the Soulforge itself changes shape, it changes and morphs based on who has control and who has power. So players in that event, not just the winner, but everybody that plays will be able to influence, what does a Soulforge look like going forward? How does it transform, and which faction does it favor? And we have printed 4 different versions of the Soulforge, and we're going to destroy 3 of those. And the other one is going to go out based on which faction wins. And that's kind of just our opening story about what's going to shift the world. But then the narratives of the Forgeborn, how they change. Because they're digitally printed, we can actually change them from printing to printing. And we've dropped cool little hints. The flavor text is not always the same every time you see a card. Sometimes you'll see a rare version of the flavor text that'll hint at a little bit of story. And based on what people do in storyline tournaments around the world, it will change the way the story and the narrative goes. So we have over 3 years of branching narrative arcs that we have planned that you as players will be able to participate in and be able to control and direct. And that all starts next week at Gen Con.
Wow. That's amazing. Oh my gosh. I am so hyped for this. Okay.
So-
Well, Justin, thank you so much for joining us. I think that's all the time we have. So for anyone who didn't hear at the beginning, if you want to check out SoulForge, you can check out their website, soulforgefusion.com. You can join the Discord. We have a link in chat. And come to Gen Con where you can actually play.
What was that booth number?
3031 Stoneblade 3031. I will be there. Come see me.
Woo! I'm so excited to meet you there. Thank you so much,
Awesome.
Justin.
Thank you, Justin.
Awesome. Thank you guys. So much fun.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so that the interview fun doesn't stop there, folks. We have another exciting
double feature.
a double feature for the first. It's a Gen Con TV exclusive. It's a TableTakes exclusive. We've got a second. Mark Truman.
Yeah,
Truman.
there he is. Yeah,
Mark Truman. So exciting! Oh my gosh, you're here. You're actually here. Hi. Welcome.
Hi, Mark.
Thank you for joining us.
Hey, great to be here.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. By the way, I don't know if you know, we're playing Root in like 2 hours from now, right here on Gen Con TV.
Mark
That's
Truman, famous the Root tabletop RPG. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, so Root, the tabletop RPG, is based on Root, a game of Might and Right, which is by Leader Games, and it's the board game is an asymmetric war game. So it's got some factions that are like an army of cats, and then one faction that's like a single raccoon, right? So you like wander the woodland in this great war that's like Redwall meets Game of Thrones, and you play one vagabond. And so when we're making an RPG, we're like, well, just everybody should be vagabonds. This is instantly what we decided. So you play a band of sort of troublemaking adventurers. You're not like good guys necessarily. Like, it's a war, there's a lot going on, but you might side with the common people, the common denizens of the woodland, the foxes, mice, and bunnies, or you might choose to take up one of these factions, whether that's the Marquise de Cat and the Marquisat, or the old I think of almost like the Starks of the woodland, the birds, the Erie dynasties, and you sort of shape the war, right? So you're the wild card, like you're the band of mercenaries that's going to turn the tide one way or the other.
Wow, that's really cool. So what makes this RPG so different from so many other RPGs out there?
Yeah, like we make a lot of different games at Magpie Games. So some of our games are really wild and weird, like Cartel, which is a Mexican narco fiction game. And in some ways, Root's like really traditional, right? Like you're playing fantasy adventures. You're playing a badger with a giant sword. Like, that's really cool. like it's a very basic kind of very familiar to me as a 13-year-old playing Dungeons and Dragons in my friend's basement kind of setup. But what we've done is we've brought a lot of like next generation role-playing technologies to that. So if you're familiar with the Powered by the Apocalypse system from Masks and Monster of the Week and Monster Hearts, we built a version of that works for Root in a really incredible way. Like, your vagabonds are empowered to be movers and shakers of the world. Like, when you do something, it has a big impact on the setting, but the system's great at spitting out complications and challenges and obstacles so that nothing ever quite goes smoothly, but always in fun and interesting ways. And the core of that system is that it throws out the idea of success or failure. So rather than roll a die, you succeed or you fail, it's roll a die, and either you kind of get what you want or you fully get what you want. So you're advancing the story in the way you want to. Like, I'm picking the lock. Okay, great. So you pick the lock, but there's some resources that you use up, or you pick the lock and everything's great, do the next thing. Or you miss, you don't fail. And on a miss, it means that the GM says what happened. So I could say, okay, so you pick the lock, like you're really expert at it, you're super quiet and silent, the door swings open, and when you look back to be like, to all your friends, we see that the door opens right into a room full of cat guards, all of whom just watched you pick this lock. What do you do? And so rather than say you failed, see, nothing happens, it's instead something is interesting has happened. And sometimes failure can be interesting, like you jump from one place to another and, oh no, you've fallen into the ravine or whatever. But a lot of times failure is like a dead end to the story. And so in stories, we have a twist, we have a pivot, we have something interesting that happens. And all of the systems in Root are built to push the story forward as the characters do stuff. So there's never kind of like one of those places where a GM has to be like, could you just go to the party that I outlined so that we can have a plot for today? Because everything that's happening in the story is creating new stuff as we go.
So I have a question for you. Does so in the board game, the certain types of players that play the game, the different factions, right?
Yeah.
They each have certain abilities that make the board game. And I think this is part of the appeal or frustration, depending on your opinion
Right.
about Root, is that
Sure.
each of the factions, if you will, plays very differently in terms of the mechanics and sometimes or your goals and how your strategy is. Do those mechanics come into the Root RPG in some way?
Yeah, so there's two big ways that they come in. One is that when you start running a game of Root, you as the GM should decide which factions are in play. So the really typical ones are to do the Marquisat, which is the cats, the Erie Dynasty, which is the birds, and then the Woodland Alliance, which are rebels / insurrectionists / terrorists, depending on your perspective, right? And that's the typical setup. And so what that means is sort of the cats and the birds are at war, and the Woodland Alliance is kind of the Viet Cong, the underlying sort of troublemakers of the setting. But you could choose to do different factions. For example, you could have a game that uses the Otters, who are sort of disaster capitalists, like they're buying up property and funding things at exorbitant rates, or the Lizard Cult, which is a religious faction that is actually does a lot of good for the ordinary denizens of the woodlands, but can have some ulterior motives, right? And that means that you as the GM pick what are the themes of my story in a lot of ways based on the factions that you bring to bear. And then two, there's mechanics actually in Travelers and Outsiders, which is the first supplement, that actually allows you as the GM to do some lonely fun kind of play where you roll some dice to see what happens with some of the war, right? So you might say, okay, well, in this downtime between these two adventures that the PCs had, I'm going to see how things worked out with the Otters. And there's some mechanics for rolling some dice, making some choices for that faction. And then you can come back as the GM and you don't say, I rolled a 6, so this is what happened. You come back and you say, hey, Peter, your character hears from a bird, a little bird. I'll say he comes up to you on the street and says, I heard at the next town over, the Otters ran out all the cats, right? And then your characters get to decide what to do with that information. And the kinds of ways that the factions interact are keyed very much to the board game, right? They're keyed to how those factions play in the board game.
Well, speaking about factions, I guess my question to you, while developing the RPG, because of course you put your own flavor, you put your own characters, which one was your truest fun faction that you really had a blast working on in this game?
Oh, that's such a great question. I think, to somewhat we as designers really love a challenge. Like it's like something like the Marquisat is in many ways really easy, right? This is a colonial power. The good thing is that they're maybe bring infrastructure and resources. The bad thing is they're colonizers. So that was really easy, right? It's easy to do. But I think we really, really enjoyed working on the Corvid conspiracy, which with leaders' help has become like in the board game, it's kind of vague what they're up to. There's a lot of mechanics around how many cards you have in your hand and plots and schemes. That's all great at the level of a board game, but at the level of an RPG, we're like, okay, but what are they doing? Like what does that mean? Like, how are your characters going to interact? So working with Leader Games, we gave them a story that really makes them more like the mafia or cartels or some sort of criminal conspiracy. So they're sort of worming their way into these spaces and taking them over, but not as like this overarching colonial force, but as a kind of corrupting force that takes the people who are in charge and moves them into the Corvid conspiracy side, right? And so it's really cool to think about, like, okay, well, what would a crow mafia look like, and like how would it be structured, and like what would they want? And it's a lot of fun to have in play because you as the vagabonds might really think about the war as being the overarching thing, but the Corvid conspiracy plans to be here no matter who wins, right? And that's a very different kind of relationship that we're able to work on with Leader.
Does that mean that some of the pre-ordered expansions that haven't been released yet, are those going to also be included in the Root RPG in the future?
Yeah, we're obviously it takes a long time to make an RPG. Like, it takes a long time to design it, and then if you've ever written one, it takes a long time to write it. So like we have these like two big phases to go through. We speak with Cole and Patrick and Kyle all the time. They're the main team that created Root, and they're very involved with its progress now. And so we're definitely interested in seeing how some of those other factions come into play. But it's going to be a while. I mean, we kind of need to see what else they're planning. They have some other stuff they're going to do in the future. And then when there's enough material for us to put together a book, we'll talk about whether it makes sense to do one more supplement. But we generally think like the four factions that are in Travelers and Outsiders, right? The river folk, the crows, that's like a good size for a book. Like, so we want to have at least a little bit more information, I think, on where the root world is going before we decide to make some new stuff.
I have just a quick question. You guys have adapted Avatar, and now you're adapting Root into an RPG. Can I ask if there's any differences or any common any similarities from adapting a board game to a cartoon?
I mean, the interesting thing about the two properties next to each other is that they have some similar elements in terms of like you're playing it's a party-based game, right? Like you're playing with your friends, you're kind of all on the same team. We have some games that aren't all on the same team. Like you've played Urban Shadows, which is our urban fantasy game. You're not all on the same team. It's like the Wire. Nobody's on the same team, right? Like you're constantly competing, there's alliances, it's shifting, but there's a lot of tools for inter-conflict between the PCs, right? Like that's what the game's about. Or, like I mentioned, Cartel is Breaking Bad. There are no friends, like there's just enemies of varying degrees. So with both Avatar and Root, we're kind of thinking, how do we facilitate a game in which the characters are mostly on the same team together? And what do the tools look like for that, and how do they work? And so there's definitely some similarities there. The one big difference, of course, is that Root doesn't have like several seasons of television to pull from for what those stories look like. So we had some really cool opportunities to work with Leader Games and talk about, what does the Corbin conspiracy look like? What does it mean for the moles to want to control this territory? In a lot of ways, like I said, the Marquesas and the Erie are pretty well defined, but some of these elements are a little less clear. And so we got a chance to define those. For Avatar, obviously, a huge chunk of the setting and the world is already defined. And we were very lucky that Avatar Studios invited us to contribute a lot for the Roku era. If you're familiar with the show, one of Aang's main mentors is Avatar Roku, who is the fire avatar, the avatar before him. And he speaks with Roku often about the lessons that Roku learned, but we don't actually ever see the Roku era in depth. Like you just get little slices of it. So Avatar Studios has said, well, if we're going to do the Roku era, Magpie, why don't you write for us the main history of that era? What are its main themes and conflicts? So we did get a chance to do some work there, but a lot of what Avatar is about is pretty well spelled out by the shows and the books and the comics. And so it's really more like internalizing all that media and being able to say, what are the things that we want to surface and bring to this space?
Well,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mark, you know what's happening in 6 days? It's Gen Con.
Yeah.
So are there any plans for Root RPG to have a presence at Gen Con this year?
Yeah. We actually, I laughed because our staff has been running itself in circles trying to get everything off. We sent off our last pallet of materials for our game room, like I think it was Wednesday or Thursday. So, everybody's like in that laying on the middle of their living room trying to rest up before they get on a plane next week phase. But yeah, we have some awesome things planned for Gen Con. First, we have a giant booth that has like the biggest booth we've ever had. We have a bunch of cool Root stuff. We're also going to have some stuff for our casual card game Wizard Kittens, which is a family-friendly game about a bunch of kittens who have released curses from the library and need to put them away before they get in trouble, before they get caught by Professor Whisper. So there's all kinds of opportunities to demo that either at our booth or the demo spots at the hall. We also have probably the biggest game room we've ever run. I think we have something like 300 games scheduled to run in our room.
Wow.
Which is huge and amazing and really special for us because it's not. I remember when indie games was like a 10 by 20 room at Gen Con in the basement because that's all the people that played indie games. And to be able to say that one publisher alone is running a ballroom, a small regional con's worth of games at Gen Con is incredibly exciting. But that includes Root, Avatar, Urban Shadows, Cartel, Mask, Sapillion, like all of our titles, right? So it's everything that we do. And we'll actually be able to pick up books right in that room. Like we actually will have a second booth right in the room alongside the games.
And I think we might have flown right by the fact this is Magpie Games, right? That's the name. And what's the booth number?
Booth number is 2459.
2459. There. Yeah.
I hope you saved us a seat because I will absolutely be there.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to play the RPG for Root.
That's awesome. Yeah, swing by and we we're all sold out in terms of tickets. Like it's very hard to get a ticket here at the last minute, but we do try to fill spots. There are always people who, come back late from
just planning on
lunch.
pulling rank. He's just going to show up. I'm the TableTakes. Somebody give me a seat.
And we have plans for guests to show up for TableTakes game night in the future. So if you ever want to run the Root RPG on Gen Con TV, you have an open invitation.
That's great. That's great. Thank you.
And just to also say it again, Sarah's table starts in an hour, 45 minutes, 5 p.m. Pacific time. And Sarah is running Root RPG tonight. So if this sounds interesting to you, you can just check it out. Just stay on Gen Con TV for a little while and you'll be able to watch a game.
Yeah, good luck, Vagabonds.
Mark, thank you so much for joining us. We've had such a good time having you on our show. I can't wait to play Root RPG. We'll see you at Gen Con.
That sounds good. See you there.
Make sure you stick around for just a bit. Don't turn your camera off just yet. We are going to sign off real fast. Whew, what a great episode. Oh my gosh, everybody. So exciting. All of these guests, all of this news. It really is getting ramped up for Gen Con. We're so excited to see you all there. I hope you are all staying safe out there, taking all the precautions. The mask mandate will be in place at Gen Con, so take all of the necessary precautions if you are going to be attending. That's going to do it for our episode today. Thank you all for watching. Stick around because, like Peter said, at 5 p.m., is it 5 p.m.? Maybe it's 3:30. We are going to have Sarah's table with Sarah Moore playing Root. We are also going to have Nerd Botchery Adventures on Sunday from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. If you don't know already, it's D&D, it's cosplay, and it's a lot of Dwarven Forge. Also, for those of you that don't know, on Mondays we've got board games with the Brothers Murph. And that's all for next week's schedule because we got Gen Con, y'all. We got to get ready. We are hard at work getting ready to showcase lots and lots and lots. Oh my gosh, so much tabletop, so much board gaming, so much RPGs. We're so excited. And we are all hard at work. We are all going to be traveling there, and we are all going to be very exhausted. So I hope you guys are ready for a whole lot of content. Thank you once again to all of the guests that joined us today. Mark, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to Noir and Peter and Bonsai. Thank you for being our lovely hosts today. Remember, for all of you out there watching, if you missed any of our programming, you can still check out the videos on demand. The recordings will be here on Twitch or on YouTube 24 hours later. If you missed anything, you don't want to miss out on more tabletop news. And you can also follow us here or on our Discord channel if you want to get more info about Gen Con, because there is going to be too much for one Twitch show to handle. So
just too much. Just can't do it. Can't do it.
All right.
We also have a TikTok.
Oh, and we also have a TikTok. Oh, I hope you guys are ready. This is going to be exciting. So we're taking over TikTok for all of Gen Con for next weekend. So that's going to be really fun. Bonsai is an expert. She's going to be showing me all the tips and tricks on how to do TikTok. And we got plenty of other Gen Con TV folks who are going to be there. We're really excited. So stick around, 5 p.m. We're going to have Sarah's table coming up right next.
Thanks, Mark.
Right after this. Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Love you so much. That's going to be it for our show. See you at 5.
Woo!